This topic is about relationships, and above everything else, toxic relationships. Happens to you in a coincidence kind of way. This is something that's happening to you because it's teaching you something very important, but not about other people, about yourself. Hello, everybody, and thank you so much for joining me today on the meditation channel. I hope you're doing well, and hi. So, I wanted to have a conversation with you guys about something that I have noticed that has been coming up so much when I do my live readings. Um, and this is a topic that is very, very personal to me, and this is something that I feel like it's so important to discuss because I feel like so many of you out there are going through this. And it's one of those things that many of us actually go through. Man and woman doesn't really matter, or anything in between. And this topic is about relationships. And above everything else, toxic relationships. Everybody has gone through some kind of relationship, and especially now it's a buzzword, right? I'm with a narcissist, I'm in a toxic relationship, and I'm from the place where I really want you to understand that this is not something that happens to you in a coincidence kind of way. This is something that's happening to you because it's teaching you something very important, but not about other people, about yourself. This is a moment for you to wake up and make some changes internally. And so before we dive in, I want to just remind you guys, I do have an online course on teaching you how to find a soulmate. So I'll put the link below as well as somewhere up here so you can find it. It's an audio course. All right, guys. So for those of you who know me, this is a very, very, very personal topic because I have been there and I have been through the worst relationship I'd say possible. I was in a very abusive relationship when I was very young. I learned this lesson very early on because I think it was something that I had to learn early on. And when I'm talking toxic, I'm talking emotionally abusive, physically abusive, and abusive. So there was so much that happened to me way too young, way too early on, and it leaked into my relationships later on in life. Essentially, what happened is that I was not able to attract a healthy relationship. I had some healthy relationships, so that's usually when you're breaking through and attracting it, but because you're haven't healed yourself, we continue to attract or essentially sabotage those healthy relationships. And I'm trying to find a place here where I talk about it where I hopefully can reach some of you and understand that this is something that I truly, truly, truly am telling you has been a serious issue in my life for many, many years. And when I decided to do the healing, when I really decided to dive deep and shift things, that's when things did change. So let me take you back to the beginning. My first relationship was actually not a bad relationship. I met this guy and everything was fine. But I ended up leaving him for, let's just call this guy David. We don't want to give this guy any attention because, believe it or not, he's still been trying to reach me. Anyway, so I met David when I believe I was 14. I was very young. And I know what a lot of you are thinking. I was like, oh my God, this is a teenage relationship. Yes. This teenage relationship lasted for 3.5 years. 3.5 years of torture, abuse, and you have no idea what no teenager, no one should go through. And just because I was a teenager, and if there's a teenager out there watching this and listening to this, or a parent who has a teenager who's going through this, it does not diminish the intensity or the value of this relationship, because a teenager can fall pregnant. A teenager can actually, in some countries, even get married. So I want you really to understand this. Now, did I have an adult brain at the time? No. Did I understand what I was going through? No. I was thinking from a teenager's place. However, I was very mature already at that point. David came from a very lower class, terrible family situation. His family was very broken. There was a lot of emotional abuse in his family, verbal abuse. The mother was basically always sick, and the father, I mean, who knows what was going on with him. And they just lived in a terrible conditions. And there was, he had a few brothers and sisters, and anyway, it was just a sad situation. But I fell in love with David. And I was obsessed with David. I would have done anything for David. At that time, I was having a lot of problems at home. And again, this all has to do a lot with why we become codependent, why we need these relationships, because I did not know, and most of us don't know, what love is. I got into this relationship, and a lot of you are going to notice this is a pattern when it comes to abusive relationship narcissists. I believe this person had severe mental illness for sure. But I believe this person was on the spectrum of being a psychopath. Long story short, after the 5-month mark, usually it's 3 to 5 months, the switch happens. This person becomes somebody else. And the reason why they do this is because they've got you hooked. They know that you are not going to leave them, or they're going to start testing you to see if you're going to leave them. And my relationship from that point on was him constantly testing me, constantly playing games, mind games with me to see how far he could push me and how far it could go before I would consider leaving or fight back. So I essentially would have done literally anything, and I did. I put myself in some horrible situations for this person to prove my love, to prove how much I cared. And I had, and I was also like, I got kicked out of home a lot at that time, so I was living in between houses, so I had no stability. I had pretty much nothing, and of course I'm a teenager. Let's just remember that. I just moved country. So long story short, this person would do awful things. They would wake me up at 4 o'clock in the morning and ask me to go and get them food. They would let me sleep on the side of the bed where I had back problems, where the bed was dented, and would ask me, if you love me, you would do this. If you love me, you would do that, asking me to lie to friends, to manipulate people. Craziness. I would be at school. He would say, if you don't leave school now, I'm going to kill myself. So insane stuff, guys. Insane stuff. And on top of that, the physical abuse started happening, where there was violence, and there was sexual abuse, of course, because if I didn't do this and if I didn't do that, again, this person would leave me. Long story short, I was with this person for way too long. And they ended up cheating on me. Surprise, surprise. They ended up cheating on me with one of my closest friends at the time. That was a whole other story. I essentially caught them. And when I caught them, they were at a cafe, and I barged into the cafe because I could see them, and I saw her leaning over and kissing him. And this was an accident, but karma, it goes as it goes. And of course, again, guys, remember, I'm 17 at this time, okay? I slapped him at the back of the head and poured his drink on his head, and I looked at her, and I wanted to throw the coffee at her face. The coffee cup slipped, smashed her in the face, broke her tooth. I ended up actually immediately, I told her, I was like, send me the bill, I'll pay for your teeth, whatever. And I did. I ended up working at McDonald's, and I ended up paying for her teeth to be repaired. You would think, though, after that I would break up with that person. No, of course, you give them a longer time. The point that I'm trying to make here, guys, is, listen, eventually I did leave him, okay? And it was the best decision I've ever made. And I want to also preface the fact that when you're in an abusive relationships are kind of like drugs. You become addicted. There are such highs and such lows. There is this chemical addiction that happens between you and this person. So I really remember when I decided to leave this person, there was this vast emptiness, this uneasy feeling, this like something's missing from me. But I was no longer willing to put up with this abuse and this behavior, because I didn't want to live anymore, and I luckily chose me. But this is an example of how far this can go. And I know there's a lot of you that maybe you're not going as far as this, or maybe some of you are even going farther than this. But even if it's just minor, the games, the manipulation, the ups and downs, the codependency, this is something that a lot of people experience. And even though I had healed that relationship and I had moved on, I continued throughout the years to attract some relationships that reflected many of these behaviors. And some of them were still physically violent, and most of them were just manipulation. I told a story recently as well as to essentially like how I'm attracting people in my life who don't value my well-being and my health and my mental health and my happiness. And it becomes this horrible cycle of falling in essentially into the same relationship with different people. And so what I'm here to share with you guys is what I essentially did to stop attracting that, to make the decisions in my life to transform these toxic relationships into healthy relationships. And here's the key: you don't have to know what a healthy relationship is in order to attract it. So how it began is that I kind of began to see a cycle, a pattern. I started to see that the red flags started to become obvious, and every time those red flags would show up, I would make excuses. I would say, oh, but this person is different. Oh, but they do that to their friends. They would never do that to me. And by the way, this would also leak into some of my friendships, by the way. So essentially, I want you to begin to ask yourself this question. When you see these relationships, it's not a question, it's more like a statement. It's like understanding that relationships are a reflection of the relationship that you have with yourself. Relationships are essentially mirrors to the relationship that you have with yourself. Now, this could mean good things, and this could mean the things that you need to heal and resolve within yourself. So when I understood this concept, I was thinking, my ex at the time was abusive, was horrible. He would, enjoy torturing me, literally. And I would sit there and think, well, I wasn't a bad person. I wasn't abusing other people, or I wasn't like manipulating people, and I did not enjoy that. But when I dug deeper, I started to really look at where I was at that time. And I, at the time, had an eating disorder. I was very severely sick as well when I was with this person. So once I understood the concept of non-judgment and stepping back and having a bird's eye view, what I realized was essentially that I was abusing myself. I was torturing myself. I was neglecting my health, my well-being, and that made sense suddenly. It clicked. Just the mirror was there. I couldn't deny it anymore. So sometimes when you attract these people, sometimes, yes, it could be parts of you that is also abusing other people. And you have to be honest with yourself about that. You're not perfect. Nobody's perfect. But sometimes it's things that we're doing to ourselves. We're projecting them within, and we don't even realize that. The words that he would tell me, he would call me an anorexic dog. He would say horrible things like about my looks, about my face. I was saying those things already to myself. And so they were manifesting in this person. And later on in life, of course, thinking about the ways that I was abandoning myself, I wasn't fighting for myself, I wasn't standing up for myself, and I developed an addiction, addictive behaviors. Addiction is abandoning the self. So when you really take a moment to look at your life, look at the things that you allow in, the things that you say to yourself, the things that you tolerate doing to yourself, and you have to really, truly be brutally honest. That's the hard part when it comes to this, really seeing yourself. And again, this is not about beating yourself up, because guess what? You're going to attract more of that, right? It's just about being honest about, I've been doing these things and I've been saying these things. No wonder I've been attracting these things, because if I treat myself this way, why wouldn't somebody else treat me that way? The other thing that is very important about relationships is familiarity. Familiarity is a big one, guys, especially when you notice that you keep attracting the same relationship over and over again and you can't seem to break out of it. This one comes from familiarity, like I said. So what ended up happening is that I started to realize that when let's just say you go to a party and there's 50 people there. Familiarity means that you will be attracted to and drawn to something that is familiar. Now, if your familiar is abuse, neglect, and violence, narcissism, and toxicity, guess what's going to happen? You're going to be attracted to the person who holds those frequencies, because essentially in this moment, you're trauma bonding. And we do this very unconsciously. This is not something that you're doing on a conscious level. It's not like you walk into a party and it's like, okay, who's going to abuse me here? Okay, you seem like the right person. But what it's telling you is that energetically this feels familiar. And for some reason, we interpret that familiarity as comfort, as good, as something that is a connection, a deep connection. So when you want to heal, you're going to have to break this pattern. So when I met my husband, I was doing a lot of inner work. And I had become aware of this pattern. I understood that about myself, that I would be attracted, physically and emotionally attracted, to somebody who would hold these frequencies of abuse, neglect, all of the things that I could see in my life that I had created. And again, guys, this is not a blame game. This is not a victim blaming, okay? This is just a reality of how the universe works within and without, okay? You are a victim. There are bad things that happen to you. I'm not taking that away from you. But if we don't take on some of that responsibility in the sense of we continue to choose to allow these people in, then of course, there's nothing that we can do about it. So owning some of it allows you to have some level of power. So I just want to make sure that that's very clear. So I realized this, and what I invite you to do today, we're going to do an exercise, and this is a very powerful exercise. And I'm telling you, if you can do this the right way, it's going to awaken so much within you. So I want you to take a pen and paper, and I want you to write on the left side all of the needs that you need from a relationship. And on the right, you're going to write wants. There's a big difference between need and wants. Needs are the things that will never expire, that will never die. Wants are things like looks and things that eventually, won't last forever. So the needs for me, for instance, was I looked at my needs. What do I need from a partner to feel safe, to feel loved, to be secure in the relationship? So I needed a partner who spent quality time. So one of the things that you can look into is the 5 languages. I believe there's 5. Is it affirmations? Is it gifts? Is it time? I can't remember the other 2. I'll look it up. But those are the ones that you have to understand. I think it's physical affection, intimacy. I can't remember what they were, but you got to look and understand your love language. You got to get to know yourself. So for me, quality time was very important, because all these people would just abandon me, would leave me alone. They wouldn't spend time with me. They would prioritize everything and everyone else but me. So it created a desperate reaction out of me when these people wouldn't do that, because it was triggering a huge trauma. And this is something as well within you. So if you're with a partner who cannot understand your love language, you wonder why you act so crazy and so irrational. It's because it's triggering a deep traumatic wound within you, which makes you act up. But if you feel secure and safe in a relationship, if this person is giving you that love that you need specifically, then suddenly you find yourself feeling more calm, your nervous system settles down, and you no longer act so erratically or crazy in these relationships. So one of them for me was quality time. The other one was prioritizing my health and my happiness, because none of these people did that. So somebody who actually genuinely cares about how I am, that I am safe, that I'm looked after, that I have all my needs met. So this could mean maybe a roof over your head, or it could mean making sure that, you don't have to work so hard, that they can support you in certain ways. For other people, it could be gifts, it's a gesture that you need to see it in a physical way to make you feel loved and valued. So everybody's going to have their own things, but really go deep in this list. For me, there was a lot of things. I needed honesty, very important, because I had been cheated on. I had been deceived in the past. So I needed that security. I needed somebody who would not date other people. I know this is an American thing, by the way. I don't think in other cultures they do this, but people dating multiple people at the same time. For me, that was a big thing. I don't do the double dating. I didn't understand it. I mean, I did it once I got into the culture and I kind of understood it, but it was just never felt right to me. I needed somebody who knew what they wanted. I needed somebody who was looking for commitment and a long-term relationship, possibly marriage. I needed somebody who had strong values, family values, because I didn't have a strong family security. So I was looking somebody who held a lot of those things that I wanted and needed in my life. So you see how we're going down the list here. So it really is like a self-assessment here. And it's not about projecting about somebody else and what they have. It's all about what you need. Now, when it comes to wants, this is always secondary because these things won't last. So let's just say you want somebody who's 5'6" with blue eyes and who is handsome and who's not bold and I don't know, who whatever. These are the things that are going to expire over time. And these are the things that, sure, it's nice to have, you know, it's a little more superficial if we'd like, but these are not the things that are going to last forever in a relationship. And it's nice to have them because there's nothing wrong with wanting some of that. But that is definitely the second to it. And this is also the negotiables. The needs are non-negotiable. These are things that will last until the end of the relationship. You know, if you want kids as well, this is another very important thing. So if you don't want kids, all of these things really, really matter because if these don't align with the person that you're going to meet or the person that you want to attract, well, guess what? It's not going to usually work out or it's going to cause a lot of problems in the relationship. And also understanding your non-negotiable really narrows it down to attract the right person. So when you meet them, you know who you are and you know what you want and you know what you need. So if this person doesn't hold these values, then you got to move on. Now, this is going to be triggering because another layer here is, can you spend time with yourself and do you like yourself? The most important one out of all of these. To attract true love, there has to be a part of you that is learning to love yourself. The same way that abuse, that way that you've been treating yourself abusively, you attract somebody who's abusive, right? But you can flip that. If I start treating myself with love, kindness, and respect, treating myself the way I would want somebody else to treat me, guess what happens? You start attracting people who reflect that. Very important. Now we're going into the manifestation side of things. But again, it's just energy and it's just logic. One of the questions I want you to begin to ask yourself every single day. You may not know how to love yourself. You may not know where to start. You may not have examples of that from family or friends. However, if you ask yourself this question, I guarantee you will know the answer. What would somebody who loved themselves do in this situation? So when you need to make a decision, when you need to think about this person or this relationship that you have, what would somebody who loved themselves do or say or act or react? And suddenly the answer is there. Suddenly there's a sense of knowing. You were not born hating yourself. You were not born not loving yourself. You were born loved and in love with yourself. We are taught over time how to not love ourselves. And some of us even hate ourselves. So it's something that you learned and it's something that you can unlearn. So if you want to attract your soulmate, if you want to attract a real love that is kind and true love and kindness and love, by the way, if I ask you what love is, what would you say? Actually, guys, while you're at it, write it in the comments below. What do you think love is? Now, I took this from Teal Swan, and I love this as my understanding of love, because to me, it just makes sense. Love is taking something or someone as a part of yourself. So you cannot abuse them without abusing yourself, and you cannot abuse yourself without abusing them. You become one almost. So that to me is the term of love. And again, these are things that we're not taught. These are things that are still not even understood in humanity. The point that I'm trying to make here, guys, is that the minute I started doing these connections and I started changing and doing the work, doing the list and learning to love myself, I started to do affirmations in the mirror every day. I stopped talking down to myself. I healed my traumas. I healed my addictions, my eating disorder, all of that sort of stuff. I started treating myself with love, kindness, and respect. I started attracting better people. And when I met my husband, I was not attracted to him. I'm obsessed with him now, just so you guys know, and I'm completely attracted to him right now. But I still held some of the old frequencies because, again, you have to remember what I mentioned before. I was attracted to toxic people. And by this point, I had come to a place where I was okay being single. I'm pretty sure I had not dated anyone for a couple of years at that point. And this is also very important. It's like when you find that the time to be with yourself and that comfort and that peace without needing somebody else to fulfill you or to fill those needs, you start giving yourself those needs that you want in the other person. I would take myself out on dates. I would take myself out to a nice dinner. I would take myself out to the movies. I would take myself out to walks. I would pretend that somebody would be next to me. I stopped becoming this desperate, needy girl because that desperation, guys, makes you do stupid things. It makes you tolerate really bad behaviors in other people. So you can start very small, but when you find that moment where you suddenly realize it's like, I don't have to be with somebody. I'm so fulfilled and content within myself. So when I met my husband, I was in that headspace and I didn't look at him that way because I wasn't attracted to him that way. And eventually I sat down with myself and I looked at my list of all the things that I needed from a partner. And I realized that my husband, who was my friend at the time, ticked every single box. And I realized that he was attracted to me. It took me a minute to see it. And once I realized that, I just said to myself, this is the time to break the cycle. This is the time for me to try something that is unfamiliar, but I think it's the right thing to do. So I wasn't following my emotions at that time, because if your wiring is toxic and bad, and this is all you've known, which is abuse and horrible relationships, your emotions are connected to that and it thinks it's a good thing. So I understood that intellectually. So I actually had to use my brain for once. And I was like, I'm going to make a logical decision. So I logically decided to date my husband. And I, again, was not attracted to him at the beginning. I was just like, he's a good looking guy, but I was just like, there's just not that like primal chemistry or that sexual chemistry that I normally would feel when I would meet somebody. And eventually I just said, I'm going to be uncomfortable, but I'm going to try it and I'm going to give it some time and just going to see if it evolves into anything. Within a week, not even, my heart opened up. I started to see him in a different light. And what was so amazing about this experience personally for me is that it got deeper and deeper, and the attraction got stronger and stronger. And it was a slow build. It wasn't something that was that immediate explosive boom attraction that a lot of us feel from the beginning. And again, that is trauma bonding. This was a slow build up that eventually became that intense feeling that I used to feel immediately with the first person. I constantly discover new things about my husband. My relationship with him continuously evolves into something else that is deeper and more meaningful than the superficial things that I was looking at before. And this relationship has become something that is really meaningful and deep and strong and safe and secure and real love. And I got all of my needs met. So I could heal even more with this person. So the question here is, how do you know if you're in the right relationship? If you really, really healed those traumas? because again, I get all these questions all the time when I do live readings. You know if you and your life get better. Person who is truly meant for you and who is the right person should never take anything away from you. And this is not to say that really, no relationship is perfect. There's going to still be lessons and things to learn and grow. But my life got so much better when I met my husband. My nervous system, the healing that I needed, amplified and became much bigger and much greater because I finally felt safe with someone else. And then from there, I was able to grow internally and externally because of this connection that I had with this person. So it wasn't work. It wasn't difficult. It wasn't hard. It was easy. And everything that I needed from this person just came natural. It wasn't forced. I didn't want to I had to ask him if we could live together or move in together or, everything just kind of happened with ease and flow, and it wasn't forced, like I said. So that's a really good sign. And with time, it just got better and it just got clearer. And any obstacle that we had, we resolved it. We were able to communicate, and he worked on himself as well, because this is give and take, guys, by the way. The same way that he helped me, I was helping him in other ways too, but simply just by being who we are. There was no forcefulness. And so long story short, of course, now I'm married and it was a beautiful wedding and everything was amazing, but we continue to evolve, we continue to grow, we continue to show up for each other, and we continue to choose each other. And this is not the perfect relationship. There's no such thing as that, because we're humans and there's always going to be layers to heal and grow. And every time that we move to the next phase in our relationship, it's just more healing and more growing. And we've grown so much and we continue to grow. And I'm so blessed and grateful to have met him. So that decision, that logical decision that I made, changed everything for me. And from that point on, I also continued to understand this, not just in my romantic relationship with my husband, but also with my other relationships with people. Because this lesson never ends. The self-healing, the self-loving journey continues. And I will not tolerate certain relationships anymore with certain people, or I look into certain specific things when I'm looking into a friendship. Okay, guys, so I hope I didn't skip anything else. If you have any more questions, I'm happy to do more videos about it. I just kind of turned on the camera and just sat down and decided to share this because it just came to me. As I said, this has been a question that keeps coming up when I have my live readings, and I really hope that some of you viewers see this so you can see something in yourself, and hopefully you have that aha moment where I've given you very specific tools that can really help you break the cycle and attract somebody who truly loves you. This is not an overnight kind of transformation. Healing takes time. Healing is a process, and healing above all requires you to commit to yourself, to commit to the healing. So when you make that decision, then you have to implement the practices. So I really hope that this was helpful, guys, and I really hope that you find the love that you deserve. And above all, I hope that you find the love within yourself, for yourself. Okay, guys, thank you so much for joining me today. Make sure that you follow, subscribe, all of the things, and I will hopefully see you in the next video. Have a magical day.